Yesterday, Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister, presented the budget of Government of India. By and large, it has been welcomed as a path-breaking budget, and some have compared it to what Manmohan Singh has presented when he became the first Finance Minister. There were, of course, some rumblings here and there and a targeted criticism by the former Finance Minister Chidambaram on the budget. We'll come to that at a later stage, but first let's just understand 2-3 broad terminologies in making up of a budget which will help us to understand the budget better. In fact, there's no great technology, jargon or something required to understand the budget. Budget is as good as managing a household finances by the household. In fact, there are two broad accounts. One is the revenue account, the second is the capital account. Revenue account is where you get streams of income from year to year, something like the taxes and others, non-tax revenues on mining and things like that. And the expenditure is also a routine recurring expenditure like the expenditure on the salaries, pensions, interest payments, etc. The second is the capital account where you spend money on creating assets which will get you returns and streams of income at a later point of time. In essence, this is what the budget is about. In that, two other terminologies which one need to understand is the revenue surplus or revenue deficit. In case you are able to get revenues more than your expenditure, then you will have revenue surplus, which is a very, very good position. But in case you have expenditure more than your revenue receipts, then you have a revenue deficit. Unfortunately, over years we only have revenue deficit but not a revenue surplus position. So the best that we can look forward to is whether this revenue deficit is as minimum as possible. If it is at a minimum stage, then that helps us in doing greater capital expenditure. Then finally, the other concept is that of the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is nothing more than the total borrowings you do in a financial year. So out of that, if more goes towards revenue expenditure, meeting the revenue expenditure gap, then you have less for capital expenditure. If you are able to minimize the revenue gap, then you have more for the capital expenditure. These are the 3-4 things which you should learn or just be conversant with it to understand any budget. Given in this background, what happened this year is the revenue receipts fell drastically because of the COVID. And because of that, the borrowings have to go up. Just for an example, the revenue receipts in 2019-20 budget were projected around 20 lakh crores. But finally, what we could get was only 15 lakh crores. That's why capital receipts have to go up from 10 lakh crores to 19 lakh crores, which took our fiscal deficit to all-time record high of 9.5% of GDP. This is always gross domestic product as a percentage we keep on telling. The normal thing is if it is around 3% of the GDP, that's a very good fiscal deficit. No, because then the interest, the inflationary trends will be minimal, so interest rates will not rise substantially. So the economy can be managed better. But this year nobody is really talking of that 3% because everybody knows if you have to kickstart the economy when the demand is low, the revenue collections are low, the private capital expenditure is low, has to come from government, and that can only come in only when government is able to borrow and spend more. That's why a 9.5% fiscal deficit of the GDP is also no economist is really talking bad about it. Given these circumstances, the next year planning, what is significant about it is from 15 lakh crores of revenue receipts, they are expecting about 18 lakh crores of revenue receipts, which is not too high to expect given that the economy is starting to take a good shape. And as against 19 lakh crores of capital receipts, 17 lakh crores of capital receipts is being expected. So the budget is more or less being maintained at the same level as this year. 34.50 lakh crores this year to 34.83 lakh crores next year. But one good thing is the capital expenditure is going up substantially from 4.39 lakh crores to 5.54 lakh crores. And a fiscal deficit of 15 lakh crores as against 18 lakh crores this year. So how do you maintain a higher capital expenditure of almost all 30-34% when you are not borrowing more than what you are doing this year? The crucial thing is getting about 1.75 lakh crores through disinvestment. If that is achieved, and I am sure that should not be a problem given that a lot of groundwork is done for the last 1-2 years, and this year we were only able to get about 30,000 crores under the disinvestment process. So next year I think if everything goes well, they should be able to get that, and that's very crucial. If that comes, then everything, the budget is goes as scripted. But if there is a shortfall there to that extent, the borrowings may have to go up to keep up the capital expenditure, which will have a adverse effect as far as the inflation and the interest rates are concerned. This broadly is the overall budget. Within that, some highlights which need to be factored in or mentioned are: one, they are planning to have a bad loan bank to take care of the non-performing assets of the banks. This is becoming essential so that the balance sheets of the banks become that much better for them to lend and carry on with their business, and this is a welcome thing. And tax rates have been kept as it is as far as the direct tax rates are concerned. There is an increase provision, FDI increase in insurance sector from 49% to 74%. This I think should have been due to a lot of arm twisting by America, because America has been insisting on liberalizing our banking sector and insurance sector for quite a long time, and they might have made this as a condition for opening up of their markets to our goods. So I think that could be one major reason for relaxing FDI limits in the insurance sector. And then there is this proposal to monetize the assets of the roads, gas pipelines and others to take advantage of the very surplus liquidity that is available across the world. There is a lot of money, and if it can come in for investment into infrastructure, that would be a good thing as far as the government is, as far as the capital expenditure plan is concerned. To set up a development financial institution to take care of these things is another highlight of the budget. Health is given a very, very important place. The expenditure goes up from 67,000 crores to 1,22,000 crores, which is substantial. Of course, some people do say the sanitation, the water, all that has been included in that. But then if sanitation and proper water supply is also taken care of, that will have an impact on the health. So in that context only this seems to have been factored in. Then a 10% growth rate is projected. 1 lakh crores is especially earmarked for the railways, which is a good thing in terms of the railway connectivity. There is a provision made for agricultural cess in terms of cess being levied on the petrol and other things, and it's part of the custom duties, but with no overall change in the pricing, because some other excise duties have been slashed and this cess has been put in their place. This is to ensure that you build up an exclusive fund to fund the agricultural infrastructure. So overall, the point is this money will again go back to the states, because agriculture is broadly something which is handled by the states. So the fact that it is being put as a cess need not really bother, because in the end the money in any case is going to the states. Then food subsidy has been substantially increased to brought on record whatever was earlier being taken as loans by the FCI from the National Small Scales Organization and others. So this year it has been substantially increased to 4.22 lakh crores, and for next year it is pegged at 2.43 lakh crores. And overall, in fact, the overall food subsidy and other subsidies put together is about 3.3 lakh crores. that is 79,000 crores for the fertilizer subsidy, 2.42 lakh crores for the food subsidy, and about 13,000 crore rupees for the oil subsidy as part of the next year budget, which is overall coming to about 10% of the 34 lakh crore budget. So the other major thing is, with this and the MNR, AGS and others put together, the overall subsidies and direct benefit transfers may not be more than about 15 to 20% of the budget, which is acceptable. This is where the point that Chidambaram is making, that there should be greater direct benefit transfers. But then how much of the budget? Is it 10%, 15%, 20% or 50%? What is that the budget can tolerate, economy can tolerate as the direct benefit transfer? Not that it is not happening now, he wants it more. But I think that's not justified. A 15 to 20% of the budget going as direct benefit transfers is something the budget can manage. If it becomes more than that, it becomes unviable. In fact, that's the problem with Andhra Pradesh state government, where the direct benefit transfers are more or less taking up the whole budget, are going even more than that. So it's just not sustainable. So to that extent, I think it was a properly planned thing and needs to be executed the way it is now instead of the way he wants it. Second point which he was making is, we should go more for the international trade without barriers, and any protectionism is not good for the country. Here also the point is, international trade is advantageous when you are able to take advantage of it. When your economy has the proper infrastructure, your industry is well grown, and you are in a position to really compete. But when you don't have those pluses, opening up everything and asking you to compete would be something like a limping man trying to run along with the healthy man in a race, which will not be to our advantage, which will only go on building up trade deficit with countries like China. So I think some sort of a protectionism is very, very required, and that's what this government is providing. The only point on which they should be very, very careful going forward is inflation, more so the food inflation. As far as cereals are concerned, I don't see a major problem, because you have lots of stocks and you have the MSP system in place, and you buy and supply at a very, very cheap rate, and that 2.42 lakh crores of food subsidy which is factored in should take care of it. My worry is pulses and oils. If this is going to be a good monsoon year, there may not be a problem, but if monsoon turned bad, then you will have a serious problem as far as the oil prices and pulses prices is concerned. That is something that this government should work on. In fact, the MSP should be so tweaked, it would be made advantageous for farmers to grow pulses and oils under irrigated condition. Then you will have a real food security in terms of cereals, oils and pulses. If you don't do that, and leave it pulses and oils to be grown in rain-fed conditions, God forbid there is a monsoon failure this year, you really will have a serious problem in terms of the food inflation, which will be really hurting the poor and everybody across the board. In fact, they should plan well on 2-3 points: oils, pulses, onions. If they could manage these three for the next financial year, implementing this budget will not be a problem. But if there's a failure on that, and if food prices start rising, the government will have a serious problem. I think this is going to be the crux of managing the budget for 2021-22, in addition to getting that 1,75,000 crores as disinvestment proceeds. Thank you very much.